Hi, my name is Denzel Mark Lannon. I help run and organize events for YEGRollerskate, and we've been around since 2021. We operate in Edmonton, Alberta, and try to do stuff in Spruce Grove, St. Albert, and Sherwood Park when we can. I've lived in Edmonton since I was 10 years old, I think since 2007. So I've lived here most of my life. I started skating in 2020 with my friend Abby, and together we just learned and taught each other tricks and tips. And it was just the two of us for a long time. And in 2021, we posted on social media asking people if they wanted to do a meetup. And that's kind of where it started, is where we would host events at skate parks and skating rinks, and we made lots of good friends through there. We had lots of jam sessions, lots of rollouts and trail skating, and people just kept asking us to continue the event, so we've been doing it over and over again for the next 3 years after that. Well, just nothing much to do during COVID, and learning about roller skating, having a comeback, it got me out of the house and got me to do more physical activities, and kind of got me out of like a slump during the pandemic where I was just at home, not going outside, not doing anything. So having something to do and having something physical to do really helped me lift my spirits up and um, lift my productivity up. Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew how to ice skate and how to rollerblade before, but I never took it seriously as like I'd say it's more of a lifestyle than a hobby at this point with how often I skate and how much skating I do. I do park skating, I do trail skating, I do jam skating. The only thing I haven't done is roller derby, but that's on the list for sure. To a degree, I'd say most skaters that we have skated before 2020, so we have like a big mix of like older and newer skaters. So some of those older skaters used to skate at Sports World or Lloyd's down in Calgary, or have just been skating around Canada. And with our events that we throw around the city, we've been able to get to know some of those people and learn from them and continue this legacy of skating, throughout Canada. At the moment, we have a limited amount of rental skates, and we try to do everything as accessible as possible. So we don't require people to pay to join our events. It's all by donation. But we have about like 20 pairs of skates, and that's divided amongst a number of sizes. So funding for skates and gear such as helmets, pads, um, like shorts for falling, crash pads as they call them, would be really helpful for helping teach people how to skate, getting new people to try it out. Lots of people can't afford skates, so if they're interested in skating, lots of people won't really invest that money into $100 plus into skates, helmets, pads, anything else that they might need. So having that funding would be really helpful, as well as having a space indoors during the winter would be great. So we can have events for teaching beginners, having derby people have a space to do their practices, having jam sessions inside, maybe even doing like something with House of Wheels, which is an indoor skate park in the city, and having people learn how to park skate would be incredible, because there's not a big community of park skaters in Edmonton. I could probably count them on both my hands how many park skaters I personally know. Well, for one thing, the floors would have to be smooth and flat. That's the biggest thing with skaters, is if you want to do amazing dance moves such as spins or jumps or do moonwalks, having a flat, perfectly smooth paved floor is the ideal, because having any chips or cracks will probably trip up beginners and experts alike. So having that, and as well as a space with good insulation for sound and heat, would be great, because we wouldn't want to bother anyone beside us with all the loud music. Ideally, you would have lots of music playing around so people can vibe and jam and bounce to the to the tunes. But yeah, having a space big enough for people to go around in a circle and go be in the middle and have a place to sit down and take a break would be amazing. And a bathroom, of course, somewhere for people to change. Yeah, those are like the biggest things I would say. For just like the bare minimum would just be a flat floor and enough space for people to change and go to the bathroom if needed. Lots of the smooth surfaces for new paved rinks have been in the south side or the west side. There's only one rink that I'm aware of in the community, which is in the north side, and that's pretty much by St. Albert. So yeah, I would say like the neighborhoods that are getting them are not central. They're usually off like in the suburbs of the city. So I believe it's Twin Brooks and Allard, which are pretty far south. That's beyond the most south transit center in the city. And in the west side, it's by the West Edmonton Mall. Yeah, I'd say like centralized locations such as White Avenue and downtown don't really have a place for skaters to gather around together and meet up and skate. And it's unfortunate because those are the most accessible places by transit. And for people who don't have a car, it'd be a bit more of a challenge for them to be able to come to our meetups to the south side or the east side or the west side, because there takes multiple bus rides, train ride, or an Uber. It really is unfortunate in terms of accessibility, which is what we're all about, is making things accessible and free and just available for anyone who's interested in skating, you know? Yeah, I'm connected with Olivia Walker in Calgary, Olivia Skates, and I've actually made her a costume before for last year's Disco in the Park. I helped customize a costume that she already had and added fringes to it on the sides, just so, you know, when she's spinning around, it gives her an interesting, cool movement with her outfit. This June, I'm hoping to do a Pride skate event, and I'd be so happy to create some costumes for drag performers or any queer performer out there. My background is in arts and design, so doing these things just come naturally to me, so I'm happy to connect all my interests together in any way I can. You know, I'd be happy to make a costume for a dance group, a derby team. I'd be happy to help provide my skills for anyone who needs my help, because that's how I was raised, is just my generosity and altruism. I don't really consider them different things in my head, because to me they're both art forms, and dancing is an art form, skating is an art form, dance skating is an art form, designing fashion is an art form. I started sewing only in 2020. It's something that I had been interested in for a long time. In terms of actually physically sewing costumes and garments for myself, that started in 2020 before COVID-19 hit. But throughout my whole life, I had been drawing costumes and outfits for fashion shows that I imagined in my head, like cartoon characters and anime, and just like, I'd always had an interest in fashion. Skating and fashion to me are kind of hand in hand, because to me it's all just art and a way to express myself, whether that's through dancing or fashion or skating in a costume I've made, which I've done before. Well, I would hope that as an organization, we would expand to have more people helping out with our events. So we'd be able to have more classes for people to take, more people doing events around the city. Ideally, we would have more places to skate, whether that be more outdoor rinks around the city, downtown, or indoors. That'd be amazing. I would hope to be able to throw a bigger event that is a week long. I've spoken to people with Edmonton, the downtown Edmonton Council. I forget what the organization is called, but they are currently doing the Art on the Block event. And I would love to be able to do something with them one of these years, where I have installations by artists and have people skating around a rink with all these beautiful disco balls and statues and, you know, lights and music. I would love to gather a bunch of artists to create something bigger than all or some of our parts, and do something for skating and just help people discover this art form and this sport. And yeah, just do something similar to what Nile Rodgers and Disco Oasis have done in New York and Los Angeles, where they just have this amazing once-in-a-lifetime skating event that people would come from all over to experience. I personally got to experience it myself, and it's one of my highlights in my skating career, for lack of a better word, and I would love to bring something like that to the city. So oftentimes when we skate out on the street, we just look for a place to skate and stop and just have fun. So back in 2021, we started our events skating in the Ice District in front of Rogers Place, and that we never had a problem with. We would go there, we'd have events. We even had somebody working at Rogers Place come out and encourage us to do what we do. And one of the skaters actually worked at Rogers Place and was able to change the screens for one of our events to have some graphics for our skating. He works inside right there, actually. He works at the cafe or at the front desk of Boulders as well. So he still works at Rogers, but yeah. So a little fun little detail as he's over there, Jesse. But as of 2022, we were kicked out of that space. A security guard told us we weren't allowed to skate there anymore, and we didn't know why. We messaged, we sent emails, and we pretty much were just told that like we weren't allowed to skate there anymore. We would need insurance, even though it is like a public place and we're all just gathering as skaters. We're not doing anything that's, you know, really officially like requiring money or anything. We're just playing music and skating as a group. But even in public spaces such as like a paved rink in the west side, we've been kicked out by other people or have been asked by pickleball players to wait for them to finish. And it's pretty frustrating because we're kind of left fending for ourselves, where this rink should be somewhere we can all share. If we were able to afford like a space of our own or be able to rent out these spaces, that would be amazing just for everybody, because a lot of the time people don't like to skate on their own. People only like to skate in these paved rinks. Lots of people don't really know how to skate on uneven terrain like the streets. So it makes it pretty difficult for people to continue skating and following this pursuing this hobby because of all these roadblocks ahead of them. I think there's this idea that skaters are dangerous, whether skateboarders, scooters, and now including inline and roller skaters, whereas we just want to dance for the most part and skate. We've never really harmed or damaged these places. In fact, when it's rained or there's been puddles in Rogers Place, we used to sweep up and wipe down the puddles with towels or wipe them away with squeegees. We've done so much to help the space to be better prepared for skaters to roll around and dance in. But we've been kicked out and just been denied access to places because I think there is this idea that like we're kind of like scoundrels and ne'er-do-wells, and you know, I think skaters just have a bad reputation to begin with, where they think we want to vandalize these places or leave junk and garbage on the ground. Whereas my experience is I always clean up after the spaces. Everyone is happy to help pack up all our supplies and leave the spaces clean, if not better than we left it. Yeah, I think there's definitely a sense of like elitism, entitlement, and maybe a little bit of racism as well, if I'm being honest, especially since the skating community has been able to stand the test of time because of marginalized communities. In the US, like places like Atlanta, the rinks have mostly been a space for people of color to gather and skate and dance and connect with the music. And I know like they've held events like concerts and other like slam poetry, things like that in the US. And in Edmonton, there's not really been that place like that. And I think the perception of the skaters is that we're just vandals who are here to create a mess and create trouble. Whereas a lot of us are older people, younger people, people in university, people who are just regular, you know, people you pass by on the street, but we're just here on our skates and we just want to roll around. The Ice District at Rogers Place was such a central place that we could all access very easily by train. There's McEwen Station right across the street, and people could come here from all sides of the town and it'd be an even drive for everybody. So it felt very equal and no one was getting the short end of the stick at that point. But we've had to pivot and look for new spaces, and that's been tricky for people in the east to travel all the way to the west and vice versa. So that's been a big hurdle for us to overcome. Yeah, it's quite frustrating because in the wintertime, the Ice District right in front of Rogers Place is a smooth, secure place for people to go skating. In the middle of the city, people can just come from anywhere and skate and park. And there's no issues with anybody entering that skating rink any time of the day. It's lit up in the nighttime with beautiful lights, and no one has to sign a waiver, no one has to be confronted by security guards or anything, and it's open to anybody. There's no fee, it's very accessible. And when we try to do the same thing in the summertime, we're stopped by security guards constantly. And we've had like a group of 20 people ready to skate. We're all changed and we're skating for 5 minutes, and the security guard will come up and just tell us all to stop and get in the way. And it's frustrating because we're just trying to gather as a community and have something to do together and connect and learn from each other. It's really a community where we have to look out for each other and fend for our own spaces. And we look after the space ourselves. Like, we bring water, we bring snacks for everybody. And I really just don't understand why they don't let us use this open space that's available to everybody to walk around. And that space isn't really used in the summertime. Sometimes there's tables, or sometimes there's people just sitting down, but it's a big open foyer, and it just seems like they're wasting that space. And it's such a great location for people to utilize for skating or, just gathering as a community. But for some reason, they don't like us, It's frustrating. I think the reason why there seems to be a style is because it's such a community-based sport where there's this lineage that is passed down from person to person, where we all learn from each other and we teach each other these tips on how to have better posture, have better form when skating. Yeah, we all learn from each other. I've learned from Libby, I've learned from Stephanie, from Quentin, all these people in the city. We all are able to ask each other what we can fix, what we can adjust to be better skaters. And I think the history of skating, especially now with the internet, we all learn from each other, and face-to-face, person-to-person skating, or do online classes, or just trying to recreate what we see on videos. But for me personally, I think my style comes personally from my skills as a dancer outside of skating. I try to bring the moves that I am able to do outside of skating when I go dancing at the bars with my friends, or when I do voguing in my ballroom classes. I try to incorporate that into my skating, and other people ask me about that, and I'm happy to teach them those tricks as well, on how to have the correct form when, voguing or hopping and locking, Yeah, I think for the most part it is because there's like a lineage of people passing down these skills and these tricks and these tips from the 1980s, I've learned tricks from, I think, like, even the older people, you can tell that they have a distinct groove about them, and you can tell that probably comes from their childhood skating in the rinks back in the 1980s and till now. So I definitely try to take some of that and take it with me, and I'm sure other people do as well. I'd say that the elders of skating definitely have precise footwork. They've got a better sense of balance than someone like me. I've seen people spin on one foot on their toe, just on 2 wheels. I've seen people do the most intricate footwork, just sliding around, and personally, if I attempted that, I feel like my feet would just be tangled up in knots. But in terms of somebody within these cities, I would say Livy is probably the best dancer I know in Alberta. In the city, oh gosh, there's people who are amazing at spinning that I get dizzy spinning personally, but I don't know. I don't want to say I'm the best dancer, because I don't think I am, but I'd say in Alberta, Livy's probably one of the best dancers.